Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Mitchell. I'm a citizen of East Vassalboro, right down here on the stream. And I am one of the 200 some odd folks, as I'm sure that most of you are, who live on the line of the Sanitary District. And we're here tonight to, first of all, kind of get as much information as we can about the proposed rate increases as it relates to the line. And also what it means going forward. Because for those of you who have been here a while, I mean, I've been here for 12 years. When I came here 12 years ago, the sewer rates were really negligible. And with the proposed increases, my water and sewer will be more than my taxes. And I don't know about you, but that's a little funky. Now, I also want to assume that the people who have been serving on the board for the Sanitary District are good folk who have been looking at it from their best perspective with the information they had, and that it is not in any way meant to be a criticism or a judgment on what they did, but rather, what are we going to do with the situation that we have? And so I'm hoping that tonight we can start a conversation, gather whatever other additional information that we have, as well as making sure we're all on the same page about what is coming forward. And also, what do we want to do about it as far as really out of 4,000 plus people in Vassalboro, there's only 200 of us that are directly impacted by this. And for some of us, this is the third time. And so does that mean this is what's going to keep happening? And what does it mean as far as representation? What does it mean as it relates to the entire town? And how do we do something in a way that actually makes it affordable and manageable for some folks? I mean, you know, it's going to be a substantial jump from, I think, 60% is what is proposed. And so I don't know about you, but I don't know enough about it. I know enough to be dangerous at this point. And I think having a little bit having more information, as well as what are we going to do from here on out to make sure that we're kind of on top of this. So again, my name is Mike Mitchell. I think it might be helpful if we can kind of quickly, I think there's just enough of us to kind of go quickly around, introduce yourself briefly, and where you are from in Vassalboro, as well as what you're hoping to get out of coming here tonight. Sir, how about you start in the back?
George Tromett, live right on that Main Street here, just up from the Lombard Dam Road. I'm more interested in it because I have my own septic and well. But I've just heard a lot of stuff about that, like I have to tie into it, and I don't have really any information except for like what people put on Facebook. So
yeah,
I'm just trying to gather like what's going on really.
So in addition to the information that we might have tonight, that there also is online the ordinance policy and the bylaws that are kind of governing things. And so if you want to see the details of it is there. Yeah. But there are some places that I've read it a couple times and it doesn't answer all those questions.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing for me. Yes, it hasn't underlined everything.
Right.
Ed Drake, I live down on 821 Main Street. Like I say, we're not tied into it right now. Same thing, just trying to figure out if we have to, and
yeah,
a little information on
it. Okay. What he said.
Yeah.
Hi.
And I'm with the guy second for me, but Harlan and Ann White and Little Main Street, and we are paying the fee for the potential to hook in, but we are not hooked in yet.
Yeah.
We just want to show our support for everybody because
thank you.
We're all in the same boat.
Yeah, indeed. I'm not sure the people over the other side of the hill think that way, but appreciate you being here. Thank you.
And Vern Levy, right on Main Street, we're in the same situation. We're not hooked up and we don't want to be.
Yeah, yeah. And you're paying the fine now? Yeah.
Fee.
What?
Fee.
Fee. Well, we'll call it. Right. You can see my bias. Sir, you're with her?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the other half.
Matt Pitcher, I'm just kind of an interested party. I actually live on Crystal Road, so just curious.
Yeah, thank you.
Steve Jones, Main Street, and rental property.
Stacey Richmond, I am big increase and information.
Yeah. Right. How about we go that second one? Yeah.
Lane and James the Champ. And we live on right across from the lake.
but our house is like 750 feet from the road. We also own, he owns the other house next door that's front, but if nobody's living there at this time, yeah, we're still paying.
So are you still having to pay the fee, being as far back?
We're paying for
They got the property up front closer to the
Oh,
lake, though.
oh, I see. Anything you want to answer?
Hello, Bourne. I have a rental house in the garage on 32.
What are you hoping for tonight?
What's that?
What are you hoping for to come away with tonight?
No more entry. They're not, that was a question.
Yep. And
Lisa. I live on Main Street. And I'm just concerned about what's happening. And right now I have my own well and septic system. And if it comes down to the point where I have to hook up, it will be a financial burden.
Right.
And so support and do whatever needs to be done to not eliminate, but decrease the.
Yeah.
And the $80 increase, yes. I guess I don't understand because of the fact that I feel that the pipes are an infrastructure. And I don't feel that just because it passes my driveway, that I have to give them $50 for nothing. And I have a lot of other questions because I've been to some of these meetings in the past, like back in 2015 and 16. And it's at one point there was monies that were talked about being allotted for if you hooked up. Well, what happened to those for the people that didn't? And can that be used to kind of offset what's going on? I don't want to.
Good. Thank you.
Megan McDonough, I live at 885 Main Street, and I currently pay $1,600 a year for a single. And so just looking for more information and kind of solution. I mean, I think if we get creative and we have the information, the numbers, actually have access to that information, it might give us the ability to back into this somehow a different way. But it just hit a lot of walls trying to obtain basic information.
I've been working with Megan closely, and she has a lot of really good information, so she might be someone to ask questions of when we get into some of the details.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you folks, but I know just enough to be dangerous. And so I know it from about a 10,000 foot level. And so for those of you may have more detailed information about how we got to the situation, that would be helpful. Because right now, I think just getting good, clear information consistently will be a really good asset to have.
And I've made a request in writing asking for information, right? Are they obtained? Just basic numbers from, and I can't get a response.
Yeah.
How many times have you asked Megan?
They are quasi municipality,
Right.
so they should be subject to FOIA. But I mean, that just feels really contentious when we're all just, I think everybody here is solution based, and we just want basic information so we can kind of try to collectively come up with some solutions.
Yeah. So again, as Megan's pointing out, that the sanitary district is not part of the Vassalboro governing system. It's separate, but it has an authority that's similar to it. And so it actually has kind of enforcement ability, but it is not a governmental agency. And so there's some restrictions on what it can and can't do, but it also can actually make decisions unilaterally.
What I also found really interesting is, if you're talking utility rates, you're talking water rates, that has a government entity that does compliance. That has the Public Utilities Commission.
Right.
And I think in my research, what has really surprised me is there's no instrumentality that oversees, legally what a rate increase can be. There's nothing out there governing that I can find that oversees this type of decision making on behalf of the district.
Yeah,
It's unlike the water district, because Dawn was telling me that they have to like if a complaint about price gouging happens,
Yeah.
it goes through the PUC.
Yes.
And so when I call the PUC to try to get help and support, there's no governing body for that.
So some gaps here, sir.
My name's Aaron. Here to listen, help facilitate.
Right.
Select board will be meeting next Thursday with the sanitary district. So yeah, just listen, help facilitate, try to work towards transparency and helping people understand what's happening.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
Jared, for being here.
Great to have you.
Rick Fulham, Vassalboro resident, you just here to gather information.
Thank you. Lou?
Well, but I don't even live on Main Street. I live on Cemetery Street, which is like 3 or 4 streets back. And I'm still having the price up increase. So I don't know why, because I don't think that we're even hooked up to it. We're just affiliated with it.
Yeah.
I'm Rachel Kilbride. My husband and I own St. Bridget's. We live in the house next to it. I own the house behind it.
Yep.
So we're being hit 3 times.
Wow.
And, you know, we open that building mostly for charity work. So it's not like a business that we're certainly not profiting from that business. It's not a business. So
Yep.
my husband has been going to the meeting. We've been here 9 years now. That project kept increasing as it was delayed, so it's been kind of a sore.
So, that is the need. We live at the corner of Main and Bog.
Yep.
Same thing, hoping we can in some way be a part of a solution to this.
Yeah.
Not, not complaining about anything in the past, but moving forward where we're gonna go.
Right.
My name is Tim Connolly, and we've got 4 units on the line. And, I live in Vassalboro, and I'm trying to get out of find out whether this is not an infrastructure cost for the town, for all the town. And see what we can do to lower the rates and stop the 60%, 10% a year after that.
Because goodness knows what's coming.
Erica Roy, I live at 750 Main Street. So I'm here for a couple of reasons. One is that the inconsistency with who's being charged for the right to serve fee. Some people are not, some people are. And then of course the concern for the ones that did hook up and the increase for that and how it will affect their families as well. Also the TIF funds that were offered very beginning were then recanted. So I need to understand that as well.
So there's a whole bunch of funding as well as kind of policy kinds of things that are kind of behind the scenes. And I think it'd be good for us to have a basic understanding of how that's working. Thanks.
Ned Marco, I own part of the mill.
Yep.
And just can't understand how this rate is going up this high this quick. Enlightenment.
Yeah, right, me too.
And that was one of the questions that Megan asked the district directly, and they were unable to explain or articulate where they came up with that number. And so that is something that we will be asking them next week.
Next week is the select board.
Doug White, I live on Maple Street. And I've been on the system since day one, the original system. And I was just wondering if they want some state funds to at least start pay off the loan.
Yeah.
You know, we could start pay off operating costs.
Right.
The loan is what's killing us.
Yep.
You know, I understand.
And that is part of the agenda. We'll get to see the things that we've tried so far. And I'll update you on that in a little bit.
Sure.
Zeb Mosier, I live on Oak Grove Road, and I'm just kind of here to hopefully get some more.
How far up on Oak Grove do you live?
Just past Willow.
Okay, and you're not on the line.
Oh, I am.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay, so is that far? Okay.
I'm Kristen Martin. My husband lived at 300 Main, and my biggest concern is if it's 6% this year, what's going to stop them from doing this again in 2 years? I should be thanking them, I guess, because the frustration my previous homeowners had drove them out of Vassalboro. So we were lucky enough to buy their house. However, we were not informed about this. So.
Yeah.
James Torrey, I live on Sanitary Street.
corner of Sanitary and Oak Road. It's been on the system as long as I had the house.
Yep.
And just not impressed with the increase and want to be
Right.
part of trying to make it more affordable.
Yeah.
We got a family with kids and this whole increase is
Yeah.
not healthy to anybody's family, I don't believe.
And we get really high manhole covers for a little while as well.
Speed bumps and it costs you vehicle repairs, right?
Yeah, Bruce and Michelle Noel, we've been here 39 years. We're at the end of the line on the Oak Grove Road.
How far up is that?
Right across from him.
Hempville's right across it.
That far up?
And like you said, the PUC, I think they're ducking. I think that's part of
They
it.
just don't, they said they don't regulate sewer, we called.
It's a utility.
Do you remember what they said specifically? Because I can't remember. I've talked to so many people, I can't remember why they said they didn't,
They said they just don't regulate sewer.
but they do for water, which they
Everything else.
know that
Everything else,
information.
just not sewer. They
they're
said
doing.
they can't help us, good luck.
Well, with the guidance of the board, the sanitary district board, it seems like that actually we are in the position of leadership that we may not have even fully realized. And so how do we actually kind of steal a vote on this stuff?
Somebody came in and said that the sewer system was bad and said we had to get it fixed.
That was DEP.
Right.
Isn't that state?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, my guess is that it's much more about environmental regulation than it is about infrastructure.
Doesn't make sense.
Right, but that's what forced them to do it 5 years ago, whatever long ago that was.
My name's Galen. My wife and I moved to 390 Main Street August 2nd. And we're
Welcome to
first-time homeowners, so welcome to the neighborhood here.
You recognize this gentleman?
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to be a part of it.
You guys need a tree down, that's your guy.
Yeah, great job.
I'm Bob Shorey, I live on Beastdale Road, and been on the system for the 80s. Then when the developer came in,
Yeah.
hooked in, and they put the line in. I'm here to look for solutions.
Yeah.
That reduce that $3 million debt. I think that's the key. I don't think this is a proposed increase. It is an increase because of that.
Yeah.
We need to. I want to hear other people's ideas. See if we can find solutions.
My name's Craig Flood, 626 Oak Grove Road. I'd like to know, of course, if we can get some type of assistance from someone from the government or the state, whoever. But I was also thinking, not that I want to do anything radically, but I was wondering if we all stop paying and we put our monies towards hiring a lawyer.
Or Declaration of Independence.
There
Right,
you go.
something. Yeah. Or-
Am I the last one? Oh, my-
Nope, there's a lady over here.
No, no. All right, my name's Bernie Welch, and we have a place at 356 Main and 345 Main. And I've written a note to Aaron, and since I'm late, I don't want to waste your time repeating it, but a big question that came out of the last meeting seemed to be, is the town on the hook for this? Because and there was Aaron at the time. Is Aaron here?
Aaron's in front of you.
Did you find out?
I haven't received a response.
Okay, so I saw a couple of people shaking their head yes and no. Because that's another bigger piece. Other folks, like if it came from the DEP, tells the town they have to do something, and a portion the town has to pay, which is the people using the service. Maybe if we were told in the first place per cost per unit, there would have been a different decision. I mean, we even calculated trucking, and it'd still be cheaper than they paid this kind of that.
Yes.
Nora Murray, and we have a house on Main Street. And this past summer, the tank was beginning to fail, didn't completely fail, but had to make a decision. So we went forward and we did hook on to public sewer.
And one of the reasons we did was because I looked at the ordinance, which said within 5 years you have to connect anyway. So we were just about a year out. So we put in our $6,000 to not to replace the tank, but to connect on. And I'm awaiting our first bill in January. I'd like some clarification. Maybe it's been said, but I just didn't hear well here. There's an ordinance, sanitary district ordinance.
Right.
Is that an ordinance that the sanitary district can do by themselves? Does it have to go through the town for a vote? Because I see nothing where it has been taken forward for a vote. And at the prior meeting, there was great confusion over a 2019 ordinance. So I don't understand why that confusion was there, and had it been voted on? Does it need to be voted on? And can the trustees in and of themselves make all these decisions?
Yes.
So Lisa Miller again. So I was one of those that was confused because initially at the beginning it had said if your system failed, they wouldn't grandfather us, which I think is wrong anyway, but that's my own opinion. They said that if your system failed, you had to hook up, that there'd be no more permit. I was surprised to learn that there was an ordinance back in 2019 because I have never received anything, because I would have gone to that meeting. I would have made it a point.
Yep.
And when I called the sanitary district, that was one of the things I wanted, was a copy of that ordinance, plus the meeting minutes and the people that attended. And I was told that I would have all the information I wanted, requested, excuse me, by Friday. That was like 4 weeks ago.
And nothing.
I have nothing. I've made several calls and to different people and such, but again, I'm having a really hard time getting.
And Laura, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, but that might be information you were able to obtain.
Yep. So my name's Laura Jones. I'm not on the line, but I'm helping obviously run the Zoom. I have 7 people on Zoom with me. And I've been working at compiling data for the background. So this is a work in progress. But it's a reference if anybody wants to use it. And I won't go through all the detail on all the slides. What I'll do is tomorrow I will post this on Facebook. I have a photo album of my Laura Jones Community Matters that has actually all the minutes themselves. What this is the data pulled from the minutes specific to anything relating to the sanitary district. And it's in chronological order. I bolded anything that had dollars in it because I know that's one of the big questions is the grant money and other monies that came in, TIF money and things like that. So like I said, I'm not going to go through and brief everything, but it does give you a rundown, time-wise, as far as what meetings occurred, what discussions were related to TIF funding. The engineer on the project spoke a few times. So you can pull out things like this, where on May 31st of 2018, there was this much available, 111,628 in TIF. And for those folks that are on Zoom right now, I know you can't see this, but this will be made available to you all as well. And then you can see that that was what was awarded. And the reason why is because at the time they didn't want to deplete the TIF funds completely. They felt they needed to leave some in there for anything that came out of emergency wise. So like I said, I'm not the expert. This is just all from the minutes, but you can go through them. I think I have a total of 15 slides of where I consolidated it. And then also if there was town line articles, because they did some of the background research as well in the articles, I have links in there to them so that you can read the whole articles.
Last meeting, they said they took the TIF funds away.
There was TIF money approved on a few different occasions. I won't go through all the slides here, but if I go back to the very first one that I didn't show yet, this is a working document. It's by no means final. I know Tara got from the state that they said that $4.6 million was awarded to the project. I haven't traced down all 4.6 million yet. What I've been able to figure out so far is my grant asked, grant received, TIF asked, TIF received, and then I have notes that were just helping me figure out what was going on. So you can see on the left side, there was a $975,000 grant, community development block grant was awarded. And then down in March 22, there was ARPA funds looked at. I haven't found whether those were approved or not yet in the notes. And I'm being whispered to that they were approved. So I'm trying to source everything so it's not hearsay, that you can go back to the original source and read it for yourself as far as what the information is. And then for the TIF money, you can see that as well. My lines are a little off up there, sorry. So like in September 15, they asked for 60,000, they got 60,000. You can see down on some other ones, they asked for 120, they got 100. So there was you can see the totals at the bottom there, and this is not 100%. Don't quote me on this, but it gives you an idea of the timelines, and then the source materials where I pulled it from.
But
So
it seems like when I looked at it, that the bottom line was is that no matter how much money was being received, it was always short of what was needed.
well, it grew, as somebody else mentioned here, as the project grew. It started off as, I think, $5.5 million in like 16, 17 timeframe, I think I read. And then it grew to like $7 million. And then it was, I think 8 million was the final. And that's not necessarily uncommon for projects to grow, mission creep. I don't have the information as far as why the mission or why the project increased dollars. That was not in any of the select board minutes. And that's kind of where I'm limited to as far as background data is select board minutes and town line articles. The sanitary district doesn't, at least on their website, they don't have minutes recorded and posted.
Which kind of brings me back to your question. And Aaron, can you say a little bit more about the distinction about how the sanitary district board reports or their relationship with the select board?
Can you clarify the question?
Well, the question was, are they really kind of on their own? Can they make decisions independent of the select board?
My understanding is not an entity that the municipal officers oversee.
So yes, they can. Yeah. And so that body is really where all the decisions are made.
How about the ordinance?
In the past, the town has voted on amendments to the ordinance.
Aaron, I did come to the 2019 meeting, and the reason I didn't attend the last one is because I got tachycardic, because everybody just looked dumbfounded when they were asked questions on the board, and they didn't have any answers. It was so convoluted. But did we take it to vote at some point? I mean, I know we voted to do it because we were going to get hefty fines if we didn't do it, but.
So, still new. I've been here for a little less than a year now, so I'm still learning. But again, I mean, just the research that I've done, I've seen amendments made by the legislative body, town of Vassalboro, as far as ordinance goes.
Does anybody remember voting for this?
No, when they were doubling our rates, when they were talking about this project, they were doubling our rates at the time.
Right.
And they were working on the grants. However, I believe they went forward with the project before all the grants were in place.
Yeah.
I do remember asking at the time that they were doubling our rates if this was going to cover what was needed for the project. And got a vague kind of yes.
And so that's where, I mean, I knew that the increase was coming. I just didn't have any clue that 60% was coming. That's what's caught me off guard.
Right. No, this was when they were doubling our rates back then.
The original construction.
And we thought, well, I mean, that was a big jump then. And we thought, well, if this is it, or if this is going to cover our rates and going forward, and now a few years down the road, we're going up another 16%. So.
Didn't I hear at the last meeting, they were going up 60% right off the bat, and then it was gonna be 10% a year every year after that.
So does anybody know of why the 60% is happening?
They,
We're still.
You said that we have to pay our bills.
25%. That fee to go for Winslow, what I understand.
Is they
Right.
raise the fees.
Because Winslow increased theirs by 25, right? So that's part of it.
We're gonna pay for that.
and plus whatever they're citing, whatever maintenance and repairs and the engineers, you know, there's some costs that they didn't expect, but I don't know exactly what.
And I have a question from online as well, from Scott Robers. Hasn't there been some inference to there being engineering design errors which might speak to the project cost increase? If so, shouldn't there be some liability to the engineering firm responsible?
So I did ask a board, I didn't realize she was a board member when I was out passing flyers out, awkward moment. And I said, I heard that there were design issues. If the engineers made mistakes, how come the town didn't sue them? Or how come the sanitary didn't sue on behalf of these 200+ people? And she said she didn't know anything about that. So I think that's something we should pose as a group to the district next week. Because if like, and I understand, I don't know a ton about this kind of project. But does it make sense that we paid for manhole covers? Does that make sense that the sewer people paid for that? Am I missing something? Or is this a road? It was a $250,000 in addition to the fees that we had because there were issues with our manholes. And I heard they put them in wrong, Erica, is that?
Yeah, right in front of.
What?
Yeah, 3.
And so that was an additional $250,000 to us 200 folks that we were not expecting. And so, but the board person that identified as a board person, even though she's not on the board list, said she was unaware of any frivolous errors by the engineers and that there was nothing to sue for.
Bernie.
There's two things, but one kind of stuck out because 2 times in the last meeting I heard that we found out, well, the board found out that the $1 million grant was denied 15 months ago. I mean, and so I think at that juncture, there should have been something brought forward. And the piece that is somewhat disturbing, and Aaron on that, is that it sounds like it comes back on the town. I mean, who else would pick this up unless it's the DEP mandate? I don't think we're remaking the wheel here. There must have been some other sewer district in this kind of peril because of a mandate that they had no control over. And so I think there's a state piece involved here and an information piece. And 2020 hindsight's always gorgeous, but it's not so pretty right now. Well,
So we've asked for clarification on that question, 1 million.
Yeah.
So we hope to get some of those answers next week. We'll just urge people to send me your questions in advance so we can kind of name sort of the quorum at the meeting next week. I'm thinking we might be meeting at the school.
Oh.
Just based on
Size.
Yeah.
So what we were
going
gonna do, Aaron, is we were gonna try to like get a list of questions. So there could be one person. So like some of that passion and anger doesn't play in and we actually get reasonable answers and responses back. And we were gonna try to elect one person to do that. And then we were going to try to send those to the sanitary district and say, please, as soon as this meeting's over, please come prepared. And if you need to have representation, because every time I call, they say they have to speak to a lawyer and they refuse to speak to me. And please have these answers ready for us at this next meeting. Because so at the next meeting, I have invited Senator Pouliot. I've called him repeatedly. I have asked him and Representative Bradstreet to confirm the monies that we allegedly got in grant monies, which was allegedly the 4.6, which we have not been able to totally figure out yet. It looks like we know that 1 million is missing or we didn't get. And what I do know moving forward as far as monies go is that once a project is finished, it's really hard to get grant funding. And I think, but I do know Pouliot was reaching out to Senator Collins to see if there was a rainy day fund that they could help us with. And so I have asked them for a verification as to how much we actually got and didn't get, because if they're under the assumption we got 4.6 and we got 2, I don't know, then what else can they do to help us out? Can we talk a little bit about them choosing not to be a part of that
Bernie had a question.
Oh, Bernie.
Is there a name of the DEP that started this ball? Well, is there a person?
When the violation was happening,
Right.
when the equipment was breaking down.
Right.
It's,
I spoke to, I believe his name was Dan, and he said that he was responsible for, he knew that they had mandated the update to the system. But he said he had nothing to do past that.
Because we may not be the only system that's happened to, and it'd be nice to see it. And others responded to that.
does anybody have enough history here to know when the decision was made that the sanitary district was really going to be isolated to just the people on the line? That it was not going to be a cost covered by the entire village?
Or the entire town.
No. Nobody? I mean, it passed the straight face test. You're the ones using it, so therefore, right? But again, I bet each one of you could come up with an argument that says, yeah, but I don't, I still have to pay. So, I mean, there are these things that municipality wise, you would think, as Bernie's kind of alluded to, like there must be other municipalities that have this kind of issue.
Lisa said something.
You know, back in 2015, started going to the meetings. It was at that point. So we had just moved here in 2000, end of 2015, maybe, I think September. So, 16. So whenever they had their first meeting, I attended, and they wanted to know where everybody lived on these roads, and they were working with some developer, and there were some places that needed to have pump house. It was in the beginning stages, so best that I can think of would be like the 2015-16 ish.
Okay.
I don't know anything.
What you're asking?
So I did post some resources that I haven't been able to access answers because of my age or my income. Has anybody reached out to elder services to get free legal advice?
Not yet.
That'd be super.
We talked, and I wanted to see what this was gonna, I don't want to call there and have them start asking questions of it, like, I don't know. So I'd like to find out if we can, it'd be more interesting to know, because on their thing, it's seniors or anybody over 60. We'd find out how many people of these 200
right
fit into that category. So when I call and say, you know, it wouldn't just be representing me, it'd be
That
78
won't
of
work.
us.
I tried that on behalf of anybody over 60 out here. And they wouldn't speak to me. They said they had to do an intake with the individual. So each person over 60 is going to have to reach out. And I think that will give you free legal to know whether
Right,
this
but I think
ordinance.
I just think it would hold more water.
Yeah.
If they knew they were. doing
Yeah,
something
I did tell them.
So
For the timeline, it was in the, 2016-17 timeline that they started talking about, there's a public hearing, well-attended public hearing. In 16, they talk about getting funds for engineering costs. So that was the design costs at the time when they were trying to figure out, because there was two options to go with as far as the design on what the options were. So that's the timeline. If you want to dig further in those errors, that's where that would be.
So if I'm hearing this, one of the things we had a meeting this Sunday to kind of get the ball rolling. We talked about the need to have more information. And the information that we thought at the very least we need is to know who's on the line, where are they on the line, and how are they on the line? Because as we went through, there was variations among people who were here. And so to your point, that if we don't know who's doing what, we can't necessarily know fully what the issue is and also how we're going to approach it. And so I think one of the requests is to say, where can we get this very detailed information about who's on the line, how they're on the line, and where they are, so that we basically know who we all are, to be able to get a sense of that. And it seems to me that the sanitary district would have that information.
Well, we have a map of everybody on the line. We do have that, but, and I don't know if it's possible to print it out and start passing it around, because then people could actually say, hooked up, need to hook up. You know what I mean? That might be something that would help as far as like trying to identify like who's where and how we're all.
We should be able to get that.
I'm sorry.
They refused to give it to me, but I did access it from another source.
I did, I walked with several people I can't remember the year, but we went and we had people sign. We walked a little bit on Oak Grove. We went down Cemetery Street. I think we went as far as Donald Breton's house, and then we came back on the other side. And we gathered a lot of names, but there was no one wanted to jump in. There was no.
Get that information from the town is simple as just finding out where it runs. Like one of my properties is the last one on Priest Hill, and so we'll just find out where that sewer system is. Pull up the town map, and we'll give all the names and everything.
Been hooked up for 39 years. The prime, I think, is someone who has a working septic. They're ready to serve, makes you hook up, and the cost to get from the road is on you amongst the other high prices. I think that's a crime.
It really does sound criminal.
I'm paying $12,500 to be hooked up this week.
Wow.
And they've got to come back in the spring because they can only put a coal patch.
That's a crime.
It's not sustainable.
Right.
And we feel bad for, I mean, we're on the line and use it, but we feel bad for you folks, but we're also horrified because if all of a sudden they say, oh, we can't force you to do that legally, well, is it going to leave 20 of us?
Right.
Yeah. All right. So more information, and wherever we can get it from. And also, we don't have a whole lot of information about the finances. And I looked at the treasurer's report online. The sanitary district is operating on a deficit of about $55,000. And so what that says to me as a former administrator is that if anything else comes along, there's no reserves. There's nothing. It has to go right to the ratepayers. And so whatever is here is going to come again if indeed there's a break in the line. There's a problem, something. And
I think that's going to.
Right. But in general, what I saw is that it's not designed to actually absorb anything.
There's no funds there. So if something happens to the line, is it going to come back to us again?
Not a very good looking budget, I saw.
Yeah. And I didn't see anything that looked outstanding in it, but still.
Again, I go back to, it's gotta be an infrastructure cost. I mean, in years and years from now, going down Braybrook, and going down this road, they're just gonna add on things. I don't understand why we have to pay for that. There's 200 people have to pay for this infrastructure. I mean, you're gonna turn around business that's gonna want to come to town. It's gonna be tough to sell houses. For those people such as myself that own large apartment buildings here, I'm not gonna be able to fill them.
Yep.
It's just that it's gonna be a domino effect. It's
going to cascade. So not only what's the infrastructure, but why is it or not a utility involvement that's somehow providing oversight?
Right. I think you just nailed it. I think it's intuitive to think that if you're mandated and you have no other recourse to join an entity, that kind of involves a utility. In other words, that means they have the right to I guess, take your property. If you choose to keep a septic system. And I don't know where that power starts or where it ends right now. So I guess the question would be, is this a governmental corporation or is it a state mandate that the town has to be being voted for?
Aaron, can you speak to that? Because on Sunday when we met with a very small group just to sort of get flyers going and stuff, one of the questions is okay, the sewer district puts a lien on us, but it does go through the town, right?
Yes.
It's my understanding is it's written state law.
Yeah.
That because of the sanitary or sanitary district, that they're granted the authority through the legislature to use the lien process. It's the lien process for municipalities. For example, if you don't pay real estate tax, something that I would do as a tax budget. But this is something separate.
Well, I asked if I'm sorry, but if you're within 100 feet of an existing store in the state, you're compelled to hook up. That's kind of what it says.
So I talked to Jim, I believe his name's Lynch at DEP. And yes, there is a state of Maine
It's a statute.
Statute.
I read, I did read.
What he said, the towns individually have, or the sanitary district would have the say as to how rigid or how loose they want to be. In other words, it's not specific in that you do A, B, C, and D. It's that they have, there's gray area, is what he told me. Yeah, discretion.
I have to say that was what was confusing for me and the Roys, was because as I went out and I only made half the town before my feet were freezing off. But as I was going past and all these people are being forced to hook up, there's people right up on the road that are not paying any fees or are not being told they have to connect it all within 5 years. They're just saying when your sewer system dies, that's when you have to connect. I tried to tell those folks, you guys really should come because at some point this might impact you and it's not going to be a small hit. And so even if it doesn't impact you now, it impacts us all. And so for the ones of you are not on the line or here to support, we do appreciate that for sure.
So far I have 3 questions, which is essentially, why is this not being looked at as an infrastructure utility issue? And what are the statewide or municipality issues related to that? Why is this doubling? And what are the underlying costs associated with it? Might be just operating costs, but some clarity around that. And also, how come there's such a wide range of people's relationship of how they pay or don't pay, and what's that all about? In the ordinance, it basically says the waiver is essentially that there would be an unreasonable cost to be able to hook up, and you have to have, I guess, two estimates as to how to determine what an unreasonable cost is. But it looks like there's other exceptions to than even just that. And so, how does that happen? And is that something that's typical? It's
Just one clarifying question. When they keep talking about 200 households, are they the 200 that are actually close to the sanitary? Or is that including the houses that are being charged potential hookup fee?
Laura, do you know that? So we don't, right, there's another one to get clarified.
Do we know how many people are, what the number of people is on that? Well, I think that right there is.
Or being charged.
So that it was really hard to find people because all the numbers and names and addresses were everywhere. So I just went down the whole entire road, and that's when I realized the reason it's not in order is because there's all these houses that look like they should be hooked and are not. And for some reason, they're not being held to the same standard that like Erica Roy is being held to.
So it actually may be a lower number than 200.
That are
Right.
actually hooked up.
Yeah.
Well, there is a reason that they're not hooked up if you're on the high pressure part. There's a, from the last pump there by the water district, it goes under what they call high pressure sewage. And so they don't tap into those lines. So it goes right past the old Elmer's nursing home. It goes by the mobile home park. And the only change was they forced Duotherm to go on that line. I don't know what they had to do to step the pressure down and pick it up again, but those houses go until you get to the first house in the north on the right past Bernard's. That's called the high, it transfers all the East Vassalboro.
So they're exempt from it, all those people right there?
They can hook up. You're not obliged to hook that up because of the
So that decreases the numbers even more.
Right, that's right.
Okay.
So my confusion is at the very beginning of this BUC letter. It said that this was going to happen. It gave us a form to fill out, send it in by such and such a date for a deadline, and that Vassalboro was going to have money to help you book in. And then all of a sudden that money can't be used for residential, I guess.
I think that's the TIF money that fell through that maybe Aaron can speak to.
Well, I mean, it was there and then why have us, that's kind of like false information to have us be like, okay, well, this won't be so bad, but then you do the paperwork, you send it in just to find out that, well, there really isn't those funds available.
No.
So since I've been here, they haven't asked for the funds.
So they're giving us these huge bills and they haven't reached out for the yearly TIF amounts.
Really?
Can you put that down there?
Yep.
I think.
Okay, so yeah, so my understanding is the town used ARPA, $10,000 ARPA funds for the guardrail project in June of 2023. That might be, I believe, another 75.
So last meeting, they said they diverted the TIF funds to other things, and then we got the, each year the selectmen can vote.
Yeah, said that.
The guy that did all the talking, that was at the last meeting.
From the source of that.
He said that they diverted the TIF, that, and that each year, when there's a new selectman board, whatever, they have the right to say they don't want the TIF to go to whatever. And
Sure, they
divert
do.
it to something.
They absolutely do, but they haven't requested funds this year since I've been here.
Are there remaining TIF funds for 2023?
There are TIF funds.
And Laura, there was another pool of money that hasn't been accessed, which is
That's just the small
like for people in need.
general assistance fund, yeah, that's minuscule for individual help
TIF
there.
funds can be used for residential homes. Because that was the,
I guess I'm unclear if they can even be used right now. TIF funds. Purpose.
Even though they've been
Because
used
you're talking
many years prior.
like, well, yeah.
Why would it change all of a sudden from
Again,
like
I mean,
the 5 years prior to
Kind
2023?
of what I'm hearing, but it's more answers the next.
Because Laura, we found that we've been getting TIF money all along up until 2023.
Right, but that was part of, the TIF money was going towards the construction and the work of the system being put in.
Right.
For this individual.
Exactly.
It's limited as to what
You're asking me to pay down debt.
Gotcha.
Kind of, I think that's what it is.
so back to the questioning. Third time. So TIF funds, if we get more, is that going to be able to help residents hook up? Because like Crystal mentioned, and we received the same letter, if you filled out the application before a certain date, you would get some TIF funds to help hook up.
And it was first come, first served.
Yes, so if that is not a thing for residential, we shouldn't have been offered that, but we should be offered something
Put that down.
in replace.
So discrepancies on what was offered and how
Yeah.
that was advertised and yep, we can put that in there. Before the next meeting, can someone please, if you have like if you meet a certain financial, whatever, can someone please do that? That's free legal aid in Maine, and you can actually directly speak to a lawyer and ask questions. That'd be super helpful, so we can get some guidance on like some of these ordinances and stuff. There's also the elderly one, free elderly legal services in Maine. You just have to be 60. You can do an intake and they can tell you if they can give you any free legal advice. That'd be super helpful. And then that would give us more information for the next meeting, I think.
Is there a governor's advocate? I mean, does Janet Mills have an advocate?
I have not had luck with Governor Mills. I keep emailing her and getting, I didn't get any, a couple of you guys got responses that said.
It was more of like a generic, here's our statement about, we're so sorry, but there's nothing we can do.
So I didn't find that helpful, so that's why I went directly to the legislative body.
Other questions?
So I guess
Yep.
there.
Somebody else had a question.
I'm just wondering, a question for the trustees. If there were engineering problems that caused some of the additional costs, do we have any legal?
I think it's a new Winslow increase that's trying to pull mass.
Laura, how much was the increase? Was it only 125?
I'm sorry, what?
The Winslow increase,
It was 25%.
25%.
of
That's a lot.
25% per household.
I know it's 25%.
So can you put that down there? And
I'm gonna be meeting with the Winslow Town Manager on Monday. So if you have questions, like for me to ask her.
are you doing that with, who are you doing that with?
Paul Bowman's the new
Oh, yeah.
town manager there, and the Paul, I believe his name is the.
Aaron, could you find out, like, for instance, with Winslow, I mean, there's some parts of Winslow that are out there. And so do they have a difference between people who are on their sanitary district and those who are not? And how are they handling it? I mean, does anybody know whether China has a sanitary district? I mean, like that.
I do know there was one meeting with, I forget his name. Remember Lori Fowle? She used to be our representative. She connected to me to him. His name's Chris or something, I think. And then he said they did have a meeting with Bradstreet and another politician this week, and they were supposed to let us know how that went.
So I have a question as far as conflict of interest. Because I know one of the individuals that's on the trustees for the sanitary district for Vassalboro. A does not live in Vassalboro.
Doesn't.
And B
is part of the Winslow standard.
right,
So we, I
You'd have-
think that's a conflict.
right. At the very least, he should pass on voting anything related to the Winslow line. Which kind of highlights also, I guess there are two openings on the board.
One
And-
current vacancy.
Right,
Mhm.
and so clearly we need representation that actually is going to keep an eye on the stores that work. So
Do the people on the board get paid?
No,
somebody does, because there's a salary line in the budget for $90,000.
I believe it's the treasurer, Rebecca Goodrich.
Yeah, there's one woman that runs the sanitary district, Becky.
I think she's the paid employee.
So that's with all benefits and all of that stuff. No, I mean, Ray's on it and Al Roy, is on it. And they've been on it for a bit. But it's a voluntary position.
Yeah, I had a question, A24 preliminary budget that they say they do have a line item for administrative payroll, including quarterly taxes, and they have allocated $90,870. So it's an expense that I just, again, don't understand. That's pretty hefty figure.
What year is it?
That's posted on their site for the preliminary budget.
Well, this year.
Yeah, and there are a couple line items on there that, it would just be nice to have a little bit more information about
Clarification.
what the line item is and how they arrived at the dollar figure, because, it's an unmanned office.
And what are their legal fees, Megan?
Right now, they just have $2,100 budgeted, but
Yeah, we'll probably get another increase here.
Right. I mean, right. Because there's no oversight, and so therefore there isn't really any kind of standards around it, but they are going to be audited because they were audited last year, and that's, you can see more detail in that audit.
Isn't that what we talked about Sunday though? Is that's one thing we want to request of them is an audit?
Well, the financial audit is mandatory, so that'll come, it should be wrapped up. The one from last year they got in December, so.
And it's posted on their web, the audits are posted.
Yeah, and so there's some, it's 15, 20 pages long, so it's a pretty detailed document.
yeah, Steve, I would say 25% to Vassalboro, when Winslow itself, they did not raise their sewerage 25% for individual household.
And some of my friends live in Winslow. I think they pay this
$40
40 a quarter.
It's 40 a quarter, is going up, and we're going to 50. I mean, from one tab to the next, I mean, that's significant.
And if they agreed to do this with us when we did the expansion, why are they going up a couple years later this much? That they already know these 200 people are hurting.
Because there was an increase during COVID in 2020. That's when the rate went up.
Yeah, but $10 for them and 25% for us.
Now 200.
There'll be thousands of more people paying them.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions that we want to make sure we get on?
Can someone post on one of the Facebook pages, different avenues, or email addresses that we can contact?
I wrote on the Vassalboro community site. It shows the different legal resources for the different types of incomes or ages. So anything you guys can do. I also encourage you to, I've been in touch with the lady that wrote the Bangor Daily News article for us. I think, Aaron was helpful. Aaron, I hope I'm not outing you here, but you have some newspaper days in your old days there. So I just think the more noise we cause, the more attention we're going to get, and the more pressure we put on these folks, it's going to be more difficult to ignore us. So I encourage you to reach out to the Bangor Daily. I reached out to the Kennebec Journal repeatedly. I didn't hear anything. I encourage a bunch of you to do that. And so let's keep putting pressure on these people that represent us. I guess my question would be is, and I know people in the community hate this when I point it out, but I have not had any minor children in this town since I've lived here, and I pay for the school system. Does not seem reasonable for 200 people to try to deal with this issue. And I just don't understand why it's not a town's issue at this point.
They answered that at the last question. We asked that question.
Which was what?
They said that the school district payments is a federal thing, and so if you're mandated to pay or something like that, and that's why, and this is not.
It's kind of like what Mike pointed out earlier, though. we don't necessarily drive down Cemetery Street, right, or road or whatever you live on though, but we pay for your road to get fixed when it needs to be fixed, right? So I guess I don't see what the difference is here.
I agree. We asked that question at the meeting. And that the answer was, well, that's not, it's state mandated or federal, I can't remember which one they said, but it's different.
We do need to have some clarity as to what's what, as far as the lines of governance are concerned, who's responsible for what. But what really is clear to me is that there really isn't a single entity that's really responsible for the oversight other than that board. And that board is only going to be reflecting if it's only, I mean, I have to admit, I've only been to one meeting. And so therefore, it'll change that, but.
Why aren't they more transparent? I mean, aren't they representing us? Aren't they on the board to represent?
Yep.
The people on the line?
Yeah.
Oh, I have another question. So I spoke to an 85-year-old woman who's very bright and very articulate and she wants to help in the background and not be outed, but she did say that the sanitary district owns a bunch of properties and buildings. So I guess my question to the board and to go on the agenda would be, why are they not liquidating to offset the cost to the people? Does that make sense?
Well,
And I know that they. So.
That building on Cemetery Street's empty.
Exactly. Expenses, electricity. I mean, I realize you have to keep it at a certain temperature, so pipes and things and stuff, but you're not gonna sell the building. And why are you putting in for electricity $16,000? Why, and it was plowing and sanding, why don't they guys for an actual resident of Vassalboro flat, it would be cheaper.
Is that turn the pump stations?
Well, I can't even wrap my head around 16,000.
Well, if you maximize.
all right, let's try to keep the side conversation down so we can hear. So any other specific questions? Yep.
One of those pump stations is behind my property, and they do have somebody privately pumping, plowing that. So that's where some of that flow is coming from, so they can access it. But, I mean, there is a thing too that community says they're not benefiting, but before the sanitation came in, most of those houses were dumping in that stream. I'm certain that they would not want that with the alewives coming back. So, we do benefit in the community for the sanitation. Everyone is benefiting. And because the Water Act, and that initially started that. So, just like the school, people are benefiting by having that stream clean. And,
I don't think any of us are arguing that. I definitely wouldn't want my stream.
But people are talking about that they don't benefit from the sanitation, that they're not impacted. The community, it would be if we were, is what I'm saying.
Help the town.
Right.
So Aaron, is there a way of bringing this to a town vote to try to get support and rally our neighbors for, it would be a drop in the bucket if we spread it amongst 4,000.
What would be, you could bring anything, try to bring anything.
And I'm sorry, my days of politics are behind. When and where and how would we do such a thing?
So the easiest way is to ask the select board, I've mentioned this before, is to ask the select board to put an article on the warrant for the town to decide.
So that's something we could do next week in front of the select board.
My understanding was they did do that. And there were so many people against it because it didn't impact them. They asked for a $25 increase that everybody voted that they didn't want that $25 increase. So the town voted on it.
I mean, it's a day at the movies, right? So what if us I only made it to half the town, so I don't know how many people I missed. But what if we as a group rallied together, made sure we got the rest of the town and all showed up for the night of the vote. Somebody was telling me this the other day. There's power in numbers. Couple big huge group of people showed up, they voted, they immediately walked out and they won. I believe we can do it if we all show up and make an effort. Great.
It seems like the next step is, of course, having good representation at that meeting on the 14th. And so what I would suggest is find 2 other people and see if you can get them to attend so that we can make a statement, at least in numbers, so that this is having transparency going forward. And that we actually know what we're dealing with. We get these questions in front of them to give an opportunity to get more information, but then giving us really a clear idea, is there something that we need to do that's way more aggressive or way more out of the box in order to make this so that this, not only this existing problem is more evenly distributed, but also whatever else might be coming, because this is not going to stop.
Does anybody have a child who's a lawyer? A cousin?
Got a comment to that. Pine Tree Legal.
Yes, that's one of the resources, but they won't talk to me.
They won't talk.
So I need somebody that is struggling financially, that has 5 kids, 1 single income, that does, lives paycheck to paycheck. And that's how you can access. Actually, let's back up. Pine Tree Legal will help you if you have a lien or foreclosure. So they will help you that way. Volunteer Lawyers Project will help you if you have a lien or foreclosure. Elderly Services will take an intake to see if you can talk to a lawyer if you're 60 or older. And then the other one is free legal aid to anybody that's struggling financially and meets their, I don't know, I tried to find a friend to say, just say you have 10 kids and make 50 grand. 15 new liens. So, and that was one of the points to the board, is they seem to be proud that it wasn't 50 or 60 that they had initially advertised. It was only 10%, but now we've gone up another 15 households. And I mean, now with these prices going up, we are going to be at 60 and 70% with liens, in my opinion.
How far in arrears do you have to be before they consider placing a lien? 90 days.
I think 1 quarter, and they put a lien on you. They almost put a lien on me because I made a late payment and I was late 4 cents. And they called me and tried to put a lien on my house.
2 cents.
2 cents.
2 cents. And well, they received the payment probably, let's say, on the 15th, and it was due by the 30th, but it wasn't put into the bank until the following month. So we got the 2 cent charge.
Maybe saying it the wrong time, but those guys were volunteers too. It's no, I mean, they stepped forward to be on the sewer district because a lot of folks would, and it's hard to volunteer for town things. So even though I would caution against them, it's more the system kind of failed. And I'm kind of looking to see what other DEP regulations affect small towns in Maine. It puts them in this kind of predicament.
And I think that is one thing we learned with Laura, who's brilliant in finding information, is unfortunately, I think the sanitary district decided to get rid of, what is that? That group that writes grant.
It wasn't the sanitary district, it's the town. I was talking
Sorry, Erin.
about the KV cog.
Oh, yeah.
So
for grant
for some reason, we got rid of a $6,000 program that probably could have fixed a lot of these issues with 1 grant. And so I guess that's one question we'll have for the town next week as to why we got rid of that group of people for a mere $6,000.
That's something that predates the current board. That's the question we're asking now. We recently met with KV Cog and are looking into that.
Thank you. And I like your point, Barry. And that's been my point in the beginning, is I don't care how it happened, how are we going to fix it? Because it's not sustainable and we can't pay it.
Oh, it's gonna be a ghost town here.
Bernie, sorry.
Sell her out. That area. Nobody's gonna wanna buy once that.
Okay, anything else before we wrap up?
I honor both of you. Thank you for doing all.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This isn't easy to do. We've got people together. It's what the town's about. He's got to figure out needs like someplace to move forward, a way to move forward.
So just before I have invited representatives and senators to come, and they think they're coming here. So should I tell them it's going to be the school, or will you let me know when you know? Will you let me know? Or I'll reach out to you.
Send me an email.
So I can send them to the right spot.
Yes.
I don't know if the reps will see that, but.
All right. Bring busloads of people on the 14th.
Is there one central place that we can all go for to make sure that questions posted, some minute meetings, whatever notes you're taking?
So, Lori, would you mind talking a little bit about,
I'm sorry, I'm trying to do the Zoom stuff at the same time.
so the question is there a central location where questions and information about this could actually be posted so people can access it?
Yeah.
And you have a website.
Yeah, so if you guys give me what the information you want to post is, the notes, I started my own website or Facebook page, that Laura Jones Community Matters, and I've been posting everything there. And that's where I post so I'm recording the meeting tonight, and I'll post the link there. I have a YouTube channel that I'm putting everything in. And then I share it in the community groups.
It'll be posted on the municipal website.
And we can try to surmise some of the questions and give them.
Yeah, and I think it would also be important for the suggestions that you've been giving some of us about who to contact, what newspapers, the people that be, that contact information, numbers, emails that you've reached, so that we can continue to encourage each other to do that.
Yep, if you forward that information to me, I'll post it.
Yeah, it might be a little bit.
So what was Laura Jones?
Community Matters.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are the municipal sanitary
Right there.
board district members the only ones that could request?
If
an
you do that,
entire-
tag or Jones
entire
Community Matters.
What would it be, blueprint of the sewer district? Are they the only ones that could ask for that?
I have the map of,
Well, then why is there a question about who's attached and who's not?
because it shows like who's on the line, but I don't know, I can't tell from there like who's needs to attach in 5 years, who's paying right now. Like there's houses well, maybe it's because somebody said it's on that high.
All be paying.
I mean, we should be able to find out generically that information just from the sewer district itself, because we're paying the sewer district now.
And I think they've been asking. The problem is a bunch of people have that they're not getting that information from the sewer district.
Okay, and it's a lot to ask on them from all of us, but there should be some place that has every bill paid, every not, that kind of thing.
I emailed them directly, and I requested a map, which I forwarded to you. So
Yeah,
we have a
I'll take
map
that.
of who's connected, where they're connected, where the pump stations are. And then I asked when they were still answering emails, how many, because they kept saying like, potentially we can add more people, potentially we can add more people. There's 27 houses on the line that are paying Ready Connect fee, and there's no plans to add any other people at this time. And I asked for 5 to 10 years out, what is your plan? Because if we can add 200 more houses, we can cut that bill in half. And there are no plans to add additional houses. And that came from Becky Goodrich.
Even if you want to hook to it, they don't give you any incentive to do that. It's all out of pocket. I mean, I'm the last one in the lineup for this bill. And I don't have to hook into it, but my lot's too small for the septic system lineup, so I'm mandated to hook up to it, and that's where it's the 12,500. There was no money available, nobody would help.
So I would try housing authority. I started to like go on there and try to play around. I haven't had time, but I think there's some possible funds in the housing authority for something like that.
Talking main housing. I work, what specifically, we don't have a program right now. What are you looking?
I thought there was something that said they help with utilities, but if they immediately just boot you out because
So
it's sewer.
we were in. Such as those funds have all been expended. We don't have any main.
So would KV Cap ever help with such things?
Maybe cap usually.
So, you had a question.
How are we getting this information to people who are not on social media? Or on the internet?
I walked for
all
3
my
hours.
neighbors across the street are not here tonight.
I walked for 3 hours. I tried to rally as many people as I could. I walked until my feet almost fell off, and I only made it to probably around Erica's house. So
Yeah, but
So with
is
that-
there another way to get to people is what I'm asking.
With that, she did it by herself. So if anybody is willing to do that, work with her to go door to door with updates of flyers and information, make sure to let her know because it's a lot of houses to get to.
Exactly. That's
But
what
we
I
did,
mean.
we did look at that.
Yeah.
We did create the flyers to get the people that aren't on social media.
This meeting though tonight, I didn't know about till like 5:15, and I was still at work. And so I saw it just because I went through my Facebook pages and I didn't even know about it. So
Sorry, I was texting you asking you to help with flyers.
I know that some of my people that live near me would have probably been here, but they probably didn't know about it.
So Erica has a pile of flyers still. So if there's neighbors that you know of, I don't know if we brought them.
No, that's fine. I didn't, but I can run it.
I mean, we can go grab them. We have flyers. You can pass them out to your neighbors. I was hoping, Lou, you could hit Cemetery and Maple if that was close to you.
Do you want me to go grab it?
You mind?
Yeah. Yep.
We'll also put up some mailing list out.
What if the next sewer district bills do? Can't we just put flyer in the sewer district bills?
Well, I'm trying to.
Sir, go ahead.
Everyone thinks they have cell phones, can't you get numbers and text people?
Yeah.
You want some paper to pass around a sheet for people to put phone numbers down?
Put a phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there, phone number next to
I'll
this.
put it in my,
Oh, yeah, there is a list. Okay, there you go.
I think but it's gonna be the people that aren't here, right? So like, how are we gonna like get to those people that didn't know about the meeting?
Well, flyers at the post office. Post office for people that don't.
I know, because there was a bunch of people on the line with PO boxes.
Aaron, can we put stuff
The
out
post
here?
office won't let you put flyers, but you can put flyers here. The food pantry, the bank, the library, the historical society, the Hannaford's in China.
So if you have any other additional questions that you want to make sure that are asked, you can kind of log into that Facebook as well.
So this is where I need help, you guys. And if you think it's good, do it. I just ask that anybody that has time, like 5 seconds. I do it between sessions with my patients, and I make a call to the KJ. That's how I've been doing it. So if anybody has any additional time, activate.
Okay.
No.
Thank you, everybody.
If you guys just want to wait like 5 minutes for Erica, she'll get the flyers.